Hi, welcome to this presentation. In this presentation, we are going to discuss about the sampling techniques, or sometimes they are called the sampling methods. In a research, we normally study a particular population or a certain things or any other phenomenon on the earth. The population can be large population or a small population, occupying either a large geographical area or a small geographical area. During a research, it reached a time where a researcher needed to collect information or data from the study population. Now, for the large population, it is almost impossible to collect information or data from every individual from the study population. In this case, we select few individuals or few things to represent all other things. We select few individuals to represent the whole population, such that the data or information will be collected from these few selected individuals, and then at the end, this information or data will be generalized for the whole population. Now, the process of selecting few individuals to represent the whole population is now called sampling. In this session, we are going to discuss different sampling techniques or methods that are used to select these few individuals to represent the whole population. There are several sampling techniques or sampling methods that are used to select individuals for the study. Now, to start with the meaning of sampling, what is sampling? Sampling refers to the process of selecting sample. Now, what is sample? A sample are few individuals selected to represent the whole population, or few things selected to represent all things under study. The data or information about the whole population will be collected from these few selected individual or from these few selected things. Now, these few selected things is now called the sample. Sampling also involves the selection of few individuals or few things that the data or information of the whole population or all things will be actually collected from them. So we collect the data or information about the whole population from sample, from few selected individuals to represent the whole population. Now let us discuss much about the sample. What is exactly the term sample mean? Sample refer to individuals selected to represent the whole population. These are few individuals selected to represent the whole population, because it is so difficult to study the whole population. So we select few individuals to represent other individuals from the study population. So this individual or these things that represent other things is now called the sample. Or sometimes sample can be defined as part of the population selected to represent the whole or entire population or entire entity. The data or information about the entire population will be collected from the sample. Remember, the sample are few selected individuals or entities to represent other individuals or other entities. As you can see in the illustration, this is a whole population under study, and these are few selected individuals. From them, the data about the whole population will be collected from them, which are now called the sample. The process of selecting few individuals to represent the whole population is now called the sampling. Now, this is another illustration about the population and the sample. Sample are few selected individuals from the study population, such that the information about the whole population will be collected from sample. Now let us start the sampling techniques, or sometimes they are called the sampling methods. What are these? There are two types of sampling methods. These are the two major types of sampling method, or major types of sampling techniques. These are probability or random sampling and the non-probability or non-random sampling. Now, to start with probability sampling, what is probability sampling? Probability sampling refers to the sampling methods in which all individuals or entities have equal chance to be included in a sample. All individuals or all things under study have an equal chance to be included in a sample. Every individual has an opportunity to be part of the sample. There is no bias under these sampling methods. Everybody or everything under study has an opportunity or chance to be included in a sample. That's why we say probability sampling. Every individual has a to be selected as a representative of other individuals. So the selection is done randomly by a chance. The selection is done random by a chance so that every individual can have a probability of being included in a sample. Now, there are types of probability sampling or types of random sampling. Under probability sampling, there are several types of sampling methods. These are simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, clustered sampling, and the multi-stage sampling. Now we are going to discuss this type of random sampling one after another in detail. Now, to start with simple random sampling, what does simple random sampling method mean? This is a type of probability sampling in which a researcher selects individuals in a random way without any systematic way. Remember, other type of probability sampling are done randomly but with a certain systematic way. But under simple random sampling, the selection is done randomly without any systematic way. A researcher just selects individual to be included in a sample without using any systematic way. For example, a researcher may decide to pick randomly every individual without using any systematic way. Another type of probability sampling is systematic sampling. What is systematic sampling? Systematic sampling refers to the probability sampling methods in which individuals or sample are selected in a regular interval. Now, a regular interval is now a systematic way. Systematic sampling is done randomly but in a regular interval. A regular interval is what we consider as a systematic way. You select individual using a certain regular interval. For instance, when you start with the first individual, maybe you arrange the individual in a line. When you select a first individual, another individual or other individual will be selected using a regular interval. Maybe after 2 or after 3 individuals select another individual, but the arrangement of individual is done randomly. But the selection is done in a regular interval. We say the selection is random but with a certain systematic way. Let's see this illustration. A researcher selects individual in a random way but with a regular interval. Remember, this arrangement have done randomly. The arrangement of individual have done randomly. Then a researcher started with the second individual. Then he picked after every two individual. As you can see, the second, the fifth, after every two individual, the representative is selected. But the starting point is selected randomly. But the next individual will be selected in a regular interval. That is what we call a systematic way. Also, this is another illustration about systematic sampling, where a researcher arranged individuals randomly. Then he decided to select after every one individual. As you can see, started with the second individual, then the fourth individual, the sixth individual, so that you can get the sample. As you can see, the sample consists individual with the even number. That is what we call systematic sampling. Selection of individual using a regular interval. Now, another type of probability or random sampling is stratified sampling. What is stratified sampling? This refers to the sampling methods in which the individuals are divided into groups called strata. The individuals are firstly divided into groups. These groups are called strata. The division is based on homogeneous characteristics of the individuals. You divide individuals based on their homogeneous characteristics. For example, you can divide individual based on their gender or based on their age or any other homogeneous characteristics. Then the sample is selected from each stratum. Remember, stratum is a singular of strata. Strata in plural, but stratum in singular. So the sample is selected from each stratum or group using simple random sampling or systematic sampling. So you firstly divide individual into their homogeneous characteristics, and then you select individual from each stratum or from each group using either simple random sampling or systematic sampling. See this illustration. This is a population under study, where now the population have divided here into groups based on their homogeneous characteristics. The homogeneous characteristics here is color. As you can see, individuals have divided based on their color. Then random selection is done using either simple random sampling or systematic sampling to get the sample. That is what we call stratified sampling. Now, let us move to another type of random sampling or probability sampling, which is clustered sampling. Clustered sampling may be seen to be similar to the stratified sampling, but it has some difference. Let's see. By definition, cluster sampling refers to the sampling methods in which the population is divided into clusters. Now, you also divide the population into clusters or groups, such as division into small geographical area or into small groups. But the only difference between cluster and the stratified sampling is the group. Under cluster sampling, the group does not consider the homogeneous of individual. Remember, under stratified sampling, we consider the homogeneous characteristics of the individual. But under cluster sampling, we does not consider the homogeneous characteristics of the individual. We may consider the geographical area, the location of individual or location of things under study, but we don't consider the homogeneous characteristics of the individual. Then after the division, the sample is selected from each cluster or group using either simple random sampling or systematic sampling. So under this, you firstly divide individual into cluster or group, maybe based on their geographical location, but not their homogeneous. Then at the end, you select the sample from each cluster or from each group using either simple random sampling or systematic sampling. For example, see this illustration. This is a study population, then have divided into cluster, whereas the random selection using either simple random sampling or systematic sampling is done to obtain the sample. That is what we call clustered sampling. Now, this illustration here shows the difference between stratified sampling and the cluster sampling. As you can see, the stratified sampling divide the individual based on their homogeneous. As you can see, the individual have divided based on their color. But under cluster sampling, the homogeneous of individual does not considered. But we mostly consider their location, their geographical location. For instance, you can see the division under here does not consider the color of the individual. Now, the last type of probability sampling is multi-stage sampling. The name depicts itself multi-stage, meaning that it involves more than one stage. Multi-stage sampling is a type of probability sampling that involves more than one stage of sampling. It can be cluster or stratified sampling, but with many stages. This type of sampling method can be clustered sampling or stratified sampling method, but with many stages. So any stratified or cluster sampling with many stages of selecting the individual is now considered as multi-stage sampling. For example, a researcher wants to study the population of the whole country. Now the country is divided into regions. Then one region or province is randomly selected. One region or few regions is randomly selected. Then the selected regions are also divided into their districts. Then few or one district from each region is randomly selected. The process may continue up to the village level. That it is a process of moving from a broad to narrow sample. Now you started from the country up to the village level, or you may end up to the district level, or up to the region or province level. For example, this is the illustration about multi-stage sampling. Now let's use this simple illustration here. This is or the study under the study of the population of the whole country. A researcher wanted to study the population of the whole country, so he used the multi-stage sampling method, where the country was divided into states, into its state. Few states was selected. Remember, the study or the population of the students of a country. So a researcher divided the country into was randomly selected from the country. Then from each selected state, few city was selected, as you can see. Then from each selected city, one school was randomly selected. And then at the last, few students from each selected school was randomly selected to present the sample. Now you can see he moved from the country level to the state level, to the city level, to the school level, up to the required sample. That is what you call multi-stage sampling. Now that marked the end of probability or random sampling. Let's start another type of sampling method, which is non-probability sampling or non-random sampling. What is non-probability sampling? This is a type of sampling method in which individuals has not equal chance to be included in a sample. Remember, under probability sampling, we said every individual has an opportunity to be included in a sample. But under non-probability sampling, some individual has an opportunity to be included in a sample, but other individuals has not the opportunity to be included in a sample. They haven't a chance or to be included in a sample. The selection of individual is not random because some individual haven't opportunity or chance to be included in a sample. Only the particular individuals have a chance to be included in a sample under non-probability sampling. Now, under non-probability sampling, there are types of non-probability sampling. These are Snowball sampling, Quota sampling, Judgmental, or sometimes called the purposive sampling, and the convenience, or sometimes called the accidental sampling. Now, let us study this type of non-probability sampling one after another in detail. Now, let us start with Snowball sampling. What is Snowball sampling? Snowball sampling refers to the non-probability sampling method, in which a researcher begins with one or few individuals, then these individuals suggest other individuals to be included in a sample. A researcher begins with one or few individuals to be included in a sample. Then this one or few individual suggest other individual to be included in a sample. Remember, there are some research topics in which it is so difficult to find the participants or the respondents. So a researcher can start with only a single or few individual. Then this individual suggests other individuals for the study. It is used in research topics in which the respondents or participants are hard to find. For example, if the research topics is drug abuse, it is so difficult to find the drug abuser. Remember, the drug abuser as a criminal, so it is very difficult for someone to agree that yes, I am a drug abuser. They may refuse to agree that I am a drug abuser. So a research can find even a single or few drug abuser. Then this drug abuser will suggest other drug abuser to complete the sample. Another topic in which you can use Snowball sampling is prostitution. It is so difficult to find the commercial sex worker. So a researcher may start with a variable or non-commercial sex worker. Then this commercial sex worker may suggest other commercial sex worker to constitute a sample. Other topics which can apply Snowball sampling is robbery and the other topics. As you can see this illustration here, a researcher may begin with one individual. Then this selected individual can suggest other individual. Then the suggested individual can suggest other individual. Also, this another illustration about Snowball sampling. As you can see, a researcher begin with a single individual, then he suggests other individual. Then the suggested suggest other individual until the sample is completed. Now, another type of non-probability sampling or non-random sampling is Quota sampling. What is Quota sampling? Quota sampling refers to the non-probability sampling in which a researcher selects individual with predetermined characteristics. So the characteristics of the participants or respondents are previously determined before the process of selecting the participants. It is sometimes depend on the research topics. So a research topics can enable a researcher to predetermine what individual can provide a good response based on a research topics. For example, if a research topic is under early pregnancy, a researcher may look for the young girl. This means that he or she determined the victim, so he or she look for the victim only. So the characteristics of the participants are previously determined before the process of sampling. A research under this example, a researcher determined that the victim of the early pregnancy are young girl. So he or she look only for the young girl. So the characteristics of individual to be included in a sample is predetermined, which is their age, the young girl. That is what we call Quota sampling. Another type of sampling is what we call judgmental or purposive sampling. This is another types of non-probability or non-random sampling. Now, what is judgmental or purposive sampling? This refers to the non-probability sampling, in which the researcher uses his or her own knowledge or experience to select individual. A researcher uses his own experience based on a research topics. He or she may know what individual can provide a good response based on a research topics. For example, he or she may know which respondents may provide a good response based on a research topics. For example, maybe a researcher wants to study the education matters. He or she may know, using his or her own experience, that what individual or what participant can provide a good response based on a research topics. So the last type of non-probability sampling under this session is convenience, or sometimes called the accidental sampling. Now, what is convenience sampling? This refers to the non-probability sampling in which the respondents that appear to be present in the area of the study during the study time are selected. Those individuals that will appear to be present during the study time at the study area will be selected as part of the sample. For example, a researcher may be studying education issues on a particular school or a particular university. Those students which will be present during the study time at a study university or school will be selected as part of the sample. Sometimes those who were present at the event, for example, maybe a research want to study a road accident. Those who are present at the event, those who are present at the area where the accident has happened, may be selected to provide a response. So under convenience sampling, the respondents are found accidentally. Now this marks the end of our presentation. So please subscribe to this channel. Our channel is known as the Geography Conceptions channel. On this channel, we discuss different topics or matters or any other issues related to geography, and it is both human and physical geography. But also other concepts that are not part of geography, but they are related to geographical concept. Remember, there are some concepts that are not part of geographical discipline, but they interrelate with geographical knowledge. So we also discuss those concepts in this channel. So you may also comment. On this channel, and your comment may be questions, maybe suggestions, maybe criticisms, maybe you need to explore a certain concepts or any other issues related to geography or any other point of views. Otherwise, I wish you a nice moment and thank you for listening.